Well, an international law firm has recently pledged to raise up to $1.5 million to help UNICEF's global child justice work. DLA Piper will also provide $5 million worth of pro bono work to assist with the program. Now, their partnership will begin in Bangladesh, a country that has an astounding 61.3 million children and yet only has 3 child development centres. It also suffers from a severe shortage of juvenile courts. Well, joining us now to tell us more about DLA Piper's work there, as well as its assistance in Syria, is Abdul Aziz Al-Yaqout, the Regional Managing Partner for DLA Piper Middle East. Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Our pleasure. Well, congratulations. Certainly a massive tie-up with UNICEF. Tell me a little bit about the program, why you felt it was so important to really tackle child justice, and why you're looking at Bangladesh to start off with.
I mean, first of all, the program is an exciting program for the firm as a whole. We've been very much involved in pro bono work and assisting NGOs in their work across the globe. We've, in the last year, for example, given 200,000 hours of pro bono work globally, which is equivalent to approximately 130 lawyers working for free for such programs. And UNICEF, being a very prominent and a very important organization, United Organization for the Protection of Children, is an obvious choice. We as a global firm would want to tie up with a global organization, and child protection, and especially child protection in the legal field, is something that is natural to us that we can help in, obviously. And the program is about assisting child protection agencies, governments, assisting UNICEF itself in bettering the training, the skill sets of trying to help and protecting children who come in contact with the law. So, for example, witnesses in trials, or if a child is accused of a crime, or if it's a victim of a crime. And worldwide, a lot of help is required for governments, for child protection organizations, for them to better understand how you can better protect and help children. And Bangladesh is an obvious choice, as you just mentioned, 61 million children, 3 daycare centers for children. And we find across the globe really a big lack of proper protection and sophisticated protection for children. And I will take a very simple example. A child as a witness in a court proceeding. In many countries, Western countries, a child in such a situation would not be subject to a public hearing. So usually you would have public hearings, but when a child is involved, it would be a closed hearing in order to protect the child. Its identity, not to put it under too much pressure. You would have the necessity of having a child psychologist involved in the interview itself in order to protect children who need that protection.
It's such a difficult situation, isn't it? I think it's wonderful we are seeing this progress being made. But
yes.
Tell me about some of the challenges that a lot of these NGOs face when trying to carry out their work. How will your assistant turn things around?
Look, I think, first of all, I mean, let's take the Middle East, for example. We have, on one side, security situations. If we take the situation in Syria, for example, where we have a war ongoing. A challenge is for many NGOs, UNICEF being a United Nations organization maybe has an easier time than others, but a problem that we do face, especially here in the region, in many countries, is the sensitivity of governments of saying, we don't want NGOs who are doing political work. But many NGOs are doing not necessarily political work, they're doing really work that shall help and benefit society. And I would ask and hope that many governments open up more to make it easier for NGOs to work in their countries, to really play their role in civic society. I think that's very, very important.
In terms of opening up, what do you specifically think needs to be put in place?
I think that many countries need better laws with regard to regulating NGOs, laws that allow for the creation of establishments much easier of NGOs working in the country. I'm fine with the oversight, and I think that oversight is important, but it should be within a law that works well and that gives the NGO the ability to work well.
Some of the work in terms of child justice initiatives in the region, I know you've been working in Yemen, for example, looking
yes.
at the problem of child brides as well. Where do you think we stand today regionally when it comes to these initiatives?
I think there are many areas of law where better protection of children has to be established in many countries across the region and globally. As you mentioned, we've worked on a framework legislation regarding or child brides. We've worked now on, or working on legislation for the Libyan government in respect of children who have foreign fathers being able to receive the Libyan nationality, because to a certain extent, that is discriminatory in my perspective. All of this, obviously, pro bono work that we're doing for these governments, I see a huge need there. There's a huge gap, and a lot of more work is needed there. And you know, I see the great partnership that we're going into with UNICEF right now, but it's only one little part that we can play. And I would really hope to see more NGOs having the ability of doing more in the region.
So do you feel this is just the first step for you with UNICEF? Should we be waiting on some more big announcements in the next
There will be
years?
more. There will be definitely more happening. And look, this is not the beginning of our relationship with UNICEF. We've done a number of initiatives with UNICEF also in the past. I think this is the first step. I think it's a huge amount of commitment. $5 million over 3 years of pro bono work is a huge commitment. And if you look at us in the Middle East, DLA Piper Middle East, we've grown and tripled our pro bono work in the last 2 years, and we're looking to double that further in the next 12 months. So this is a huge part of the commitment, and it's part of who we are. And at the end of the day, honestly, it's hugely rewarding, and that's what it's also about.
Yeah, absolutely. Just finally, because we're almost out of time now, I know you've been working in Syria, you've done work in Libya, you've just mentioned Yemen as well. When it comes to these countries, economic, political instabilities, security issues, how on earth do you go about doing this? You
just try. You have to continue. There are many obstacles, there are many difficulties that you have to go through. As you said, security situation, the red tape. It's sometimes frustrating, but you have to continue. You cannot give up on losing out on your goal in that regard.
And in terms of continuing, what else is needed? Do you feel government support? Do you feel more support from the private sector is needed?
I would like to see more support from both ends, from the government side and also from the private sector. I mean, I'll give an example. For example, with UNICEF, we're raising money for Syria right now for the Syrian refugees, which is one of the most devastating plights for refugees today, and it's home. And I would like to see more coming from the private sector, and I hope everyone plays their part in that regard.